Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. I'm Masha and this channel is about my life in Germany and my worldwide travels. Me and my boyfriend, we just came back from our dream trip to the US. For 3 weeks we were traveling around the east coast of the United States and we started our trip with New York. There will be a separate video about each city which we visited. But to start my story about our dream trip, I would like with New York because it was the first and the most awaited city. Before I start my story, it's important to mention that this video is not about how to spend a week in New York doing the things which nobody have done before. It was our first time, so of course we did the most typical touristic things which you can do in New York, but this video will show you how to plan everything so well. So it's basically a small personal advice video on how to do the best out of 1 week in New York and not to spend a fortune for it. So to start with, how did we get to New York? We flew from Munich to New York with a direct flight. It took us around 9 hours and we flew with the company Lufthansa and it costed us around 450 euros per person per way. The hotel where we stayed was on the Times Square, so we had to commute from the airport to Manhattan upon arrival. For that, there are several possibilities and we chose taxi because we arrived quite late in the night, so we took the taxi from the airport and it costed us around 80 euros. I'm very glad that we chose the hotel in Manhattan and we didn't have to spend extra time and money every day to commute from some outside areas to the city, so it was very convenient when you go out of the hotel and you are in the middle of New York. The hotel where we stayed is called the Gallivant, and there are of course advantages and disadvantages of this place, so I will just list them for you so you can decide by yourself. But I have to say that the biggest advantage of this hotel was the location. The Gallivant is situated 2 blocks away from the Times Square, so from location perspective it was an amazing choice to stay. And also I must say that the price value was okay. This hotel costed us around $190 per night per room, and this was the cheapest opportunity which we found to stay in this area in our period of visit. Of course, there were other opportunities like Airbnb apartments somewhere outside of Manhattan, in Brooklyn for example, but they were not that cheap as well. And also we calculated the value of time and money to spend for the transport and for commuting, so we decided to pay a little bit more but to stay in the middle of everything. The biggest disadvantage of this place was the size of the rooms. Unfortunately, we knew that the rooms would be small because before booking this hotel we read of course the feedbacks, but I honestly didn't expect that it would be so small. Literally, the first room which we received was so small that we couldn't even open the suitcase inside of the room, and there was no space to pass by for the person between the bed and the wall. So honestly guys, the rooms are small, you need to be prepared for that. But I must say that there was a very kind moment from the service of the hotel that they gave us on the 3rd day. They gave us the bigger room without extra charge. So in general we stayed 7 days in New York and in the same hotel, and I must say for such a trip where you are always outside and you come to the hotel just to sleep, that hotel was the best option which you can get for this money. Another important aspect while staying in such big and expensive cities like New York is of course food. I would like to name you a couple of places where we had a very cool meals and which were really impressive and interesting. On our 2nd day we discovered a very cool dining location, especially for breakfast, which is called Junior's. These are the restaurant and bakery locations which are situated all over New York, and 2 of them were just around the corner from our hotel, so it was very convenient to have breakfast there. The prices there are quite moderate when you consider all the places in New York, but you need to keep in mind that the sizes of the portions are very huge there. Not just there, all over America. For us Europeans, it was kind of a difference, because here in Europe, in restaurant, each person usually orders one plate for himself, and there in America, we always had to share, because it's simply impossible to eat the whole portion by one person. Another interesting and cool location to eat was the Tram Tower. It's situated on the 5th Avenue and is an office building where on the ground floor you have a small cafe. The cafe itself was completely normal, but the view and environment where you are situated while eating, it was really beautiful. The tower from inside looks like a small botanical garden with a waterfall, with a lot of plants and beautiful lights. So you're sitting on the ground floor and you can observe how the waterfall falls and the beautiful plants. It was really beautiful. I would recommend you to go there, at least for this view and environment and for the couple of beautiful pics. Another amazing and beautiful moment which we had in New York was our breakfast or lunch at Tiffany's. This cafe is called the Blue Box Cafe and it's situated on the 4th floor of the main Tiffany flagman store on the 5th Avenue. Guys, I cannot describe you how amused and how in love I was being there, surrounded by this beautiful Tiffany color plates and silver forks and knives. This was an amazing experience, especially for a girl. But there are two disadvantages of this place. The first one is, of course, the price. It was quite pricey. It costed us the lunch and the breakfast menu around $200. For that price we had champagne, breakfast, lunch and a cake. And the second disadvantage was the fact that it's so hard to get a table there. They are opening the spots for booking just 1 month in advance before the date where you want to go. So you need to very carefully monitor the free spots and tables on the website of them and to book ASAP. But I must tell you, despite being so expensive and so hard to get, it's totally worth it. This is the unforgettable experience which we had in New York and I will totally never forget it. If you are searching not just for a tasty place but also unusual place in New York, I would recommend you to go to the Brighton beach and to visit the Ukrainian restaurant there, which is called Skovorodka. In Ukrainian language it means the frying pan, and you can taste there the most authentic Ukrainian and Russian food. So in this restaurant we took 1 portion of borscht, 1 portion of pelmeni and also the bottle of wine. And the whole bill was around $70. There is one important point, because now I started telling you the prices. It's very important to notice that the price which you see in the bill, it will be never a final price. Because on top, in America, you receive the taxes, service fee, and also the tips, which are from 15 to 20% from the whole amount of the bill. So for example, if your bill is around $60, at the end you will pay around $80 for the food. I think that this fact is very important for international tourists to know, because then they will be not disappointed when they will see the bigger amount in the bill than they were expecting. And now we're coming to the most interesting part of this video, the attractions and sites. So here I will show you the locations which we visited in the city and also share with you the activities which we did in order to get acquainted with New York fully within 1 week. Some of these attractions I will comment and give you some advices. Some of them I will just show you the footages with the relevant information on the screen. So we started with the Top of the Rock Observatory on the Rockefeller Center. The entrance costed us around $38 per person. I must say that it's totally worth it, because once you are there on top of the building, on this rooftop, you see the New York as if it lies on your hand. It's so beautiful. You can see the smallest details, from the Central Park to the Hudson River, you see all of this beauty. And probably it would be a tip for you guys if you are about to visit New York. There are different opinions concerning where will you get the better view for the whole city, from the Rockefeller Center or from the Empire State Building. I personally would recommend you to go to the top of the Rockefeller Center, because from there you see the city and the Empire State Building, and this view is the most stunning. After this observatory, we continued exploring New York with the Fifth Avenue. So we walked all along the avenue till the Central Park, and the first stop which we did on the Fifth Avenue was the Victoria's Secret shop and / museum. This is one of the biggest and most beautiful brand shops of Victoria's Secret lingerie. It has 2 or 3 stocks just with the products to buy, and the top floor is like a museum. There are all the combinations and suits from the Victoria's Secret shows. You can play a little bit a model there, you can pose for the camera with the Victoria's Secret dresses. It was a pretty cool experience. I think especially for girls it would be very interesting. I would totally recommend you to go there, and especially because it's for free. We also visited the Grand Central Station. It's a very beautiful railway station with a beautiful ceiling where you can see the stars merged on a very beautiful blue sky. It's all painted on the building ceiling. You definitely know the scenery of the Grand Central Station because it's quite famous. It appears in almost every American movie which we see on the TV. I would recommend you to observe the station from the above floor. There is a cafe and there are the stairs. You don't have to pay for it, you just go there on top and you see a little bit from above how the people are moving around the hall. And you could also make a cool time-lapse video there. Times Square, of course, our home district. We were passing there in the morning and in the evening every day, and we knew, I think, all of these advertisements already by heart. This is an amazing place. It feels like you're such small part of something huge, because around there are the skyscrapers decorated with these billboards and the screens. Everything was advertisement, everything sparkling with videos and lights. On the ground there are also a part of thousands of tourists. There are also a couple of entertainers which are trying to sell you something, which are giving performances, which are dressed or having some interesting makeup on them. So it's kind of place where you can see everything you can imagine. We didn't visit Brooklyn as such. We walked through the Brooklyn Bridge and we went to another part, to Dumbo, but we didn't go further into Brooklyn district. But this small walk, it took almost the whole day, but I found this walk a complete must-do in New York, because when you're on this bridge you can observe both of the islands, very, very beautiful sceneries, and here are a couple of outtakes from that beautiful walk. We visited the American Museum of National History. Yes, this is that famous museum where the movie Night in Museum was filmed. We spent there 5 hours walking all around these halls. It was really interesting. We learned quite much about history, nature, nation of America. They also have a pretty cool collection of dinosaurs, and they have the T-Rex, which was also filmed in the movie with Ben Stiller. The ticket to this museum costed $23 per person, and this is because we wanted to visit the planetarium. So this is a separate exhibition where you can also observe the movie about the stars and the solar system. It was pretty impressive, I must say, so it was totally worth it for $23 per person. But normally, if you don't want to visit any additional exhibitions, you can even enter the American Museum of National History completely for free. For that, you will just have to take a line, and when your turn comes, you will be asked probably to give a donation. You can just pay $1-2 and you can enter the museum. If you don't want to pay, you can also enter for free. So this is the advantage of museum, that you can spend there every day and pay nothing to learn the history. After this museum, we took a train, metro train, and we traveled to Brighton Beach and then later to Coney Island. Exactly there in Brighton Beach, I totally recommend you to go to that Ukrainian restaurant, and after that just to enjoy the ocean walking along the seaside. Also, what I found pretty interesting, Brighton Beach is actually the home for Russian-speaking community living in New York. So there is no other place in New York where you can see so many Russian-speaking people concentrated in one place. So we walked from the Brighton Beach along the sea to the Coney Island. It was around half an hour walk, but it was a beautiful scenery of the ocean. And there in the Coney Island, it's a small district which is famous for its small amusement park. I'm pretty happy that we came there exactly in the evening, because due to the sunset light, all these lights of amusement park were sparkling even more bright. We played a couple of games there in the attractions, and we even won a small plush toy. I must tell you, from Coney Island, when we went back home to Manhattan, it took us 1 hour with the metro, without changes, but it lasted forever. So you need to consider that when you are booking accommodation for you to stay in New York, because these distances will take you a lot of time to travel. Another amazing and unforgettable, undescribable experience which we did in New York was the helicopter flight. About that I will have another video, the separate small video about the helicopter trip over Manhattan, but I would like to show you some preview footages and to tell you that it was totally worth it. The price which we paid was around $280 per person for 16 minutes flight, but when you will be there in the location, if you want to extend your period of flight, you can make it there for the extra charge. We also booked a trip to the Liberty Island to see the Statue of Liberty. The price of this ticket was $23 per person, and it included the fee for the ship to go to the Statue of Liberty, to have there the audio guide and entrance to the Museum of Immigration on the Ellis Island. We didn't enter the Statue of Liberty itself, because for that you need an extra ticket, but I must say that it was enough to be outside and to listen to the audio guide, to hear the history. And the most interesting part of this excursion for me personally was the visit of the Museum of Immigration. In this museum you can learn how America had been built, how it was formed, how the people from Europe were coming with big ships and started building the nation on the island. The most stunning in this history is that this building where the museum had been built, it was the main point where all the people from all the world were passing through the controls to enter the American land. So you are staying there in the middle of the huge hall where, I don't know, 300 years ago, thousands of people were staying in the line to get registered as newcomers to the American land, to get the documents, to exchange money, to be checked medically, and if everything was fine, they became American citizens and were allowed to travel further around the land. There are even a couple of furnitures left since that times, and these furnitures, they are all there in this museum, so you can really feel the spirit of that time, especially because of the modern exhibitions. You can also have the audio guide, and you can imagine how all this immigration process started in America. So the last thing which we did before we left New York was a small ride on the Roosevelt tram. This is the hanging tram line which brings you from New York to the Roosevelt Island. And now we're coming to the last summarizing part of this video. Here I will share with you some observations and some conclusions which we did after 1 week staying in New York. We found pretty stunning the policemen on the horses which were riding around the city, And what was interesting, policemen and firemen, they were very happy to be able to take pictures with people. They were so proud wearing this uniform, and if some person asked them to take pictures with them, they were always posing and smiling. I can hardly imagine something like this in Germany or in Ukraine, of course. So I found this fact pretty amazing in New York. Prices are definitely higher than in Munich, for example, so you need to plan more daily budget comparing to some European city. Even though Munich is the most expensive city in Germany. Talking about prices, don't forget taxes and tips. Another thing to keep in mind are the sizes of the portions, so try first couple of days to share the food with each other, not to order each person one plate, because later, if you will be still hungry after your meal, you can order some dessert. Even though there are so many people on the streets, like literally the river of people, they were still, all of them were kind and friendly, they were smiling. Some people we met, of course, were crazy, because there is always some kind of people like this on the streets, but mostly they are all very helpful and friendly, and especially if you have some kind of small talk on the street, they will be always interested in you as a person. They will ask you, oh, where are you coming from? The service personnel, for example, everywhere are very kindly, so you will be never lost. So I must say, there is unlimited amount of sites, attractions, things to do in New York. Not just historical, but also cultural, social. The only thing which we were missing was the time, because we did the most out of the week in New York. We did everything what we planned, but of course we could have planned more if we would have more time. So New York is definitely the city which I would love to come back to and to continue the journey which we started. The biggest and most important advice: temporary SIM card with unlimited internet. I will not tell you that you cannot imagine how important it is. Of course, nowadays everybody understands how important internet is, especially during the trips. So my personal advice is the telecom SIM card. We found one telecom store right on the Times Square. So there you can buy a temporary SIM card just for 30 days, which will cost you $50, and it will have unlimited amount of gigabytes. So I would definitely recommend you to buy these temporary SIM cards, because it literally saved our trip. So that's all, guys. I really hope that with this video I managed to assure you how beautiful New York is. I hope that I inspired you to visit the city, and also that my advices and tips would be useful for you during your planning of your dream trip. Thank you so much for watching my video. All the relevant information you will find below there in the description box. I'm planning to do a separate video for each city which we visited, and here is a small reminder: in order not to miss any coming videos from another cities from our US trip, hit the subscribe button and don't forget the notification bell. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye!